Hello, it's your friend CJ Werleman, and in this episode we reveal how Israel is secretly calling the shots in Sudan, where its ally, the United Arab Emirates, is committing genocide. But first, please remember to like and subscribe to our show. Now let's get into it. Wherever Muslims, Arabs or Africans are being raped, killed and displaced, you'll inevitably find Israel holding a gun or carrying a shovel, while standing shoulder to shoulder with its Zionist-coddling Arab ally, the United Arab Emirates. The pair have become inseparable blood brothers since the Arab Spring of 2011, drawn together by a shared fear and hatred of Palestine, the Muslim Brotherhood, and Iran. You see, Abu Dhabi was not only the first Arab capital to recognize the State of Israel, but also it served as an active partner in the genocide of Gaza, as we reported several months ago here. The Emirati regime hosted exclusive entertainment programs for Israeli soldiers who were directly responsible for brutal massacres and bloody crimes against Palestinian civilians. Dubai is where Israeli murderers escaped and recharged their batteries in preparation for another round of mass slaughter in Gaza. Sadly, the Palestinian territories isn't the only place where genocide is being carried out with direct Israeli and Emirati cooperation. There's also Sudan, where more than 160,000 civilians have been killed by Israeli and Emirati-backed forces in the African country during the past 2 years. But the Sudanese are not the victims of a civil war here. They are victims of a proxy war. On one side, you have the Sudanese people and their government forces. But on the other side, you have the Israeli and Emirati-backed Rapid Support Forces, better known by their three-letter acronym, the RSF militias, which does not recruit its fighters from Sudan, but instead, using Israeli and Emirati money, it buys mercenaries from Chad, South Africa, Libya, Colombia, and El Salvador. These Zionist Emirati-funded mercenaries are wiping out entire towns and villages in Sudan by setting property and people on fire, executing civilians in broad daylight, and raping women in front of their families. You don't need to understand their language to comprehend their suffering. Israel's deepening ties to the Emirati regime and the RSF militias in Sudan helped the Zionist state secure maritime routes, monitor regional rivals, and expand its intelligence footprint across Africa. We will reveal the full scope and scale of Israel's role in Sudan's nightmare in a moment, but let's start by revisiting an article I wrote 5 years ago, whereby I explained how the UAE has recruited more than 30,000 mercenaries and dozens of private armies to carry out high-profile assassinations in Sudan, Yemen, Somalia, and Libya, with the aim of controlling and dominating the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa.
In the long term, the UAE's main goal in the Red Sea and Horn of Africa is leverage. By building military installations and controlling many of the region's strategic ports, the state is positioning itself to control military and trade flows in an area which is expected to undergo rapid economic growth in the next century. A sensible investment perhaps on the part of the Gulf state, which is currently heavily reliant on its vast but limited oil wealth. Moreover, the UAE's military and commercial moves in the Red Sea come amid its wider attempts to influence East Africa for its own security. With 90% of the state's food supply imported, Emirati-based companies have been active in buying up agricultural land in East African states to protect the country from volatile commodity prices. If successful in building leverage, the UAE could be securing its own economic future in a world looking to move away from fossil fuels for environmental and security reasons.
Growing diplomatic isolation is why the Israeli economy has crashed into a heap, as credible forecasts point to an approaching economic Armageddon on Israel's horizon. It also knows that global sanctions are inevitable as the world gains more clarity about Israel's total destruction and subjugation of Palestine, which is why the Jewish state sees Sudan and other parts of Africa as an opportunity to pillage and plunder for the sake of its own survival. Both Israel and the UAE are arming a foreign-led coup against the Sudanese government, so together they can control the country's strategic maritime ports in the Red Sea, along with its rich agricultural sector and vast amounts of gold. And we are talking about a heck of a lot of gold. Enough gold to make the UAE one of the world's top gold exporters, despite not owning a single gold mine itself. A reality that hasn't stopped the Emirati regime from smuggling more than 400 tons of gold from Africa into Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where this stolen loot was sold for more than $40 billion in 2022 alone. A windfall that has grown substantially greater thanks to the Emirati Zionist-backed genocide taking place in Sudan at this very moment. The fruits of this violence put on display in a typical gold store in the Emirati capital. Every ounce of this treasure you see was stolen from Sudan and other African nations, making this the gold equivalent of the blood diamond trade.
Time you see gold in Dubai, don't ask how much it costs, ask how many lives it costs, because the truth is Dubai only shines because Africa bleeds. Behind every single necklace, behind every luxury hotel, behind every single bracelet. Dubai has turned into a billionaire's playground, built on what Africa has lost. Because 95% of unregulated gold from Africa goes straight to Dubai, not Switzerland, not the United States, it goes straight to Dubai. Dubai is the #1 destination with no mines of its own, no minerals of its own, no resources of its own, yet they have built this whole luxury landscape based on the lives of Africans that have been lost. It's ridiculous.
The blood spilled from the Zionist Emirati colonial conquest of Sudan can now be seen from outer space. This is the direct dirty work of the RSF militias, who laid siege to the city of Al-Fashir, where 260,000 residents have been denied all food and medical supplies for the past 500 days, with the aim of forcing starving civilians to flee into the arms of their attackers.
Some are asked what their ethnicity is, and they leave them. Others say their ethnicity, and they kill them. They took all of our belongings as we left. My wife and I got to Gurney, and we were held with 400 families. They chose people and executed them in front of us. They kill them in front of you and say, bury your brother, and we just have to pour soil on them.
Women's bodies have been turned into crime scenes in Sudan as those fleeing Al-Fashir recount experiences of rape, violence and famine. That's according to the United Nations Agency for Women on Tuesday.
Women's bodies, ladies and gentlemen, have just become a crime scene in Sudan. There are no safe spaces that are left. Nowhere for women to gather safely, to seek protection, or even access even the most basic psychosocial care.
A man who escaped the last functioning hospital in the Sudanese city of El Fashir, where RSF mercenaries massacred an entire maternity ward, describes his country's sense of grief and loss.
Right now, I feel extremely hopeless. I've lost my colleagues, the people whose faces I used to see smiling. There is no happiness anymore. It feels as if you've lost a big part of your body or your soul. I do not see any hope of returning to Al Fashir. After everything that happened and everything I saw, even if there was a small hope, I remember what happened in front of me.
These mass killings have suddenly snapped the world's attention on Sudan, as human rights groups gather evidence of the respective roles played by the Emirati and Israeli governments in this ongoing genocide. These regimes are now working feverishly hard to shake the world off their respective backs, as Emirati influencers and official Israeli government social media accounts spread disinformation and lies on social media platforms, where they compare the Sudanese army to ISIS and Hamas, while falsely tying the Sudanese people to the Muslim Brotherhood. Prominent Zionist forces in the West are also trying to build sympathy for the RSF by falsely framing the conflict as a religious war between Muslims and Christians. An easily provable lie, given more than 90% of Sudan's population is Muslim, and given an overwhelming majority of RSF fighters are not even from Sudan. What's irrefutably true, and more than a coincidence however, is how RSF militias have adopted Israel's template for genocide.
The government has devised a template to justify exterminatory wars against civilians. We know that the RSF has started to use very similar language and logics to justify attacks. Discourses such as human shields, collateral damage, militarization of civilian objects on the basis of the use by Palestinian armed groups were already composing a framework in which it appeared that everyone in the world, whenever a Palestinian civilian was killed, had to presume that Palestinian civilians, even in the dozens, were killed lawfully.
Israel's grubby fingerprints are all over the genocide in Sudan. Its deepening ties to the Emirati regime and RSF militias helps Israel secure maritime routes, monitor regional rivals such as Iran and China, expand its intelligence footprint across Africa, and steal Sudan's natural resources. An investigation by the NGO Sudan Transparency shows how Israel has been obsessed with the African country since the 1970s. The Jewish state has bombed Sudan and attacked the Sudanese government for years, having long accused it of trafficking weapons to Egypt and the Palestinian resistance in the Gaza Strip. And it was under this bogus pretext that Israel bombed a Sudanese weapons factory in 2012.
The blaze that tore through this Khartoum weapons factory killed at least 2. But was it an accident or an airstrike? The Sudanese government is in no doubt.
Israel is a country of injustice that needs to be deterred. This attack only strengthens our firmness.
The commander of the RSF militias is General Mohammed Dagalo, who is also known by his nickname Hemeti. He established close ties with Israeli intelligence agencies just 4 years ago. This report says Israel sent Dagalo a shipment of advanced spying equipment as part of a series of covert exchanges. This allegation corroborated by an Israeli newspaper which said Israeli intelligence agencies delivered high-tech spyware to RSF militias in Sudan to help them track and kill their political opponents. Recent on-the-ground reports have also identified Israeli rocket launchers and other military platforms in the hands of the RSF militias. Armed by Zionists, funded by Zionists, the RSF is also adopting the Israeli army's genocidal tactics in bombing hospitals, schools, food distribution centers, and mosques as a form of collective punishment, making the RSF a mirror image of the Zionist army. Both depend on foreign mercenaries, and both use sexual violence as a weapon of war against an indigenous population. Watch here as a female RSF field commander encourages her fighters to rape Sudanese women and cleanse their lineage. If you think that RSF field commanders encouraging rape sounds somewhat familiar, then it's only because they sound very much like the chief rabbi of the Israeli Defense Force, who says Israeli soldiers are permitted to rape Palestinian women in times of war.
She was taken to Sidi Timan and she was nude searched over and over again and filmed, and then she was raped twice by Israeli male soldiers, 2 of them at a time, while videotaping her. We have also one testimony of a woman who was also taken. She says she was also raped by an inspection device by a female soldier more than once. They inserted the inspection device in her rectum. We have also one testimony of a woman saying that she was strip searched and they would beat her on her behind and they would humiliate her in front of each other. Most of the women also who were taken from Gaza, West Bank and Jerusalem said they were beaten on their genitals, which has made us to conclude that there must have been a directive that's been given to the Israeli army to treat women.
I wish they will rape you alive. They will film you, and if your mother will be alive, they will send the video for your mother to see how you burn. That's what they
war. It doesn't matter who your enemy is. You need to destroy their offspring to prevent them from creating more offspring.
Together, Israel and the UAE operate essentially as one mafia state, one pariah state, a pariah state that must be starved by boycotts, divestment, and sanctions. A global boycott will bring extra pressure on the Emirati regime, given its economy depends almost entirely on tourism and foreign trade for its survival. You can start by targeting these Emirati companies, including its national carriers, Emirates and Etihad Airlines. But speaking of survival, the depth of YouTube's complicity with Israeli war crimes is only just emerging, with a new investigation finding Google quietly deleted more than 700 videos from this platform for exposing evidence of Zionist crimes against humanity. It's also why YouTube went ahead and deleted or demonetized more than 25,000 pro-Palestine channels, including ours, the CJ Werleman Show. Which means our survival is solely dependent on those who generously support our team via membership on Patreon. So we kindly ask that you please join them in supporting our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member at patreon.com/CJWerleman. We can't produce, sustain and grow the show without your help, and we offer exclusive content and benefits to those who do. But for now, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.